Welcome to Engineering 161 and our video series. This is John Waddick, one of the instructors of the course. And in these videos, I want to point out differences between Excel 2016, which you have on campus, and the Excel 2013 that's discussed in the book. Now, fortunately, there's not a lot of changes, but there are a few which could get frustrating. So if you can just hang in there with these videos, I'll try to make them as concise as possible, and hopefully you'll find that the 10 or 15 minutes you spend listening to a video will save you maybe several hours in frustration later on. All right, first thing up. Let's say you're new to Windows 10, as I have become as well, and you want to find where is Excel. You look around the desktop, you don't see it. The search window bar is probably the best thing to do. As long as you have some keyword to go on, I'm going to click in there. I'm going to just type in EX already with just an EX Excel. So I'm going to click on that. And now normally you're going to just click on a blank workbook. Okay, you double click and you're ready to go. Now let me just make some distinction between a couple terms. Workbook, now if you look at the very top here, book 1, the book is the entire file. Now down below in the lower left here, you'll see sheet. Now you can make and have different sheets or spreadsheets within your workbook. And when you do your homework for a given chapter, like chapter 1, you're going to put each different problem in a different worksheet. To get more worksheets, you just click on this plus sign, which is known as the new sheet. Now, to make it easier for your instructor and for you to find things, you're going to double click and change these names to maybe like problem, 1.4. Okay, so then if the instructor says, hey, I want to see 1.4, you can find it real easily. So utilize these things for each chapter. You should only have one workbook, which is one Excel file. So your instructor comes over, should be able to open up one Excel file and be able to see all your homework problems right down here in these different tabs known as sheets. Okay, let me just close that out, and I'm going to open up a file that I've prepared for my quick start. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I am going to let's see. I'm gonna come up here to the formulas, to the name manager. I'm just going to make some deletions. Oops. Okay. Delete. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put this spreadsheet back to how it was when I started, just so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some of these things here. Speed. All right, so now we're ready to roll. Okay, right now this sheet is in what's known as the layout view. This is showing you kind of how it would look when you go out to print it out. So I can go to the view menu up here, and if I want to just see how it looked normally, this is how things are usually going to look. Now at the top of every worksheet, you should put a heading. Let's say what problem you're working on, your name, and the fall semester. You can make it different colors. I can go to home. You want to be, if you're let's say if you're Republican, you want to make it red, but if you're Democrat, you want to make it blue. And if you're just an American and you just don't like divisions, we can just even make it bold and black. Okay. All right. So you need to have a heading. You should have name cells down here. I only have one sheet in here. If you want to get rid of other sheets, you just right click on them. You can delete them. But like I said, all your workbooks are going to have multiple sheets. But I have just named this one quick. Remember, I can just change that quickly by clicking on it and put quick, maybe start. I can even put spaces in there. All right. Remember, if you want more sheets later on, you hit the plus sign, you get another sheet. Okay, so quick start. You want to have the problem, your name, up at the top of every sheet. Now, you have to have good documentation. You don't want to just put speed as 55. People don't know what is that. Is that in kilometers per hour or is it miles per hour? So we put a specifier, what it is, the number, and the units. Now you can also consolidate that a little bit. You can put the specifier and the units and then the value below. In fact, I like this rightmost thing a little bit better. Now later on, we're going to use this value 55 over and over again. So I'm going to want to name this something better than H7. If you come up here to the left name box, you see I've got something called H7. That's not very descriptive. So I'm just going to change this to speed, and then I'm going to put MPH. If you'd like, you could put an underscore to separate the words. Now it's very important at this point. If you click somewhere else, you're going to lose this naming. So you have to make sure you hit enter on the keyboard first. I hit enter. Now you see that this drop down menu does indeed have speed miles per hour. Okay. If I click on some other cell, you'll notice it's H9. If I click up here on this 55, that's speed miles per hour. All right. Now let's do that again. So this one is feet. How many feet there are in a mile. Okay, so I'm just going to make this FT. I'll put underscore PER underscore mile. Okay, so I've done a couple things to make it readable. I've capitalized the first letter of each word. I've put an underscore in there. And let me just do it one more time and just show you a different technique that's a little bit more powerful for naming cells. And we should, anytime you have constants that are, staying the same throughout your sheet, you should name these cells. It makes things more readable, and we're going to see the other value of it in just a bit. In addition, using the name box, which is kind of the quick and dirty way of doing it, you can go to the formula bar up here at the top, formula, and there's something called Name Manager. All right, so you can just left click on Name Manager, and you can see that I have two other things already named. Okay, my feet per mile, my speed meter per second. So at this point, okay, so I am going to want to create a new thing. I'm going to call it, now Excel was smart enough to know, hey, you're in this cell, you probably want to name it seconds per hour. Okay, notice to improve the, sorry about that, I don't know what it was, to improve the readability, I have capitalized the first letter of each word. I could, make it even, more descriptive by putting the underscores in, but that's really up to you. But you don't want to make it all caps or just all lowercase, it's hard. Now this scope workbook, that means that this cell, if I use the word seconds per hour anywhere else in this workbook, I'm going to get 3600. Now there may and will actually be occasions where maybe I have I'm going to use the letter A for a name, and I'm going to want to use that variable in different worksheets, but I don't want each worksheet to be tied to the same value of A. That case, when you define a variable, you just make it, instead of the whole workbook, you can make it whatever sheet you want. So in this case, let's say I only wanted this to be accessible in this first sheet, then I made the scope just a quick start, but put OK. Alright, so now I've got three things in there. Notice the second one, the seconds per hour, has a smaller scope. It's not global. Just to show you what I mean, if I come over into this sheet and I put equals speed miles per hour, notice that it pops up and I can double click, I can use it. It's got the 55. Now if I try to come back here and use my seconds per hour, equals seconds underline per underline hour, it doesn't come with a reference. Okay, it comes up and says, I don't know what that is. So that's the difference between a global variable that has a scope of the entire worksheet and one that has a scope of only a single sheet. This seconds per hour, since it's just this sheet, is contained and only is usable in this one sheet. All right, let's go and do our first calculation in Excel. So I want to get the speed in feet per second. Speed feet per second. Okay, so if I have 55 miles per hour, I want to know how many feet per second that is. Alrighty, so you go back to your physics, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with the speed in miles per hour. Now, don't go typing it in, although you could, and it'll come up with that. But the easier way is to just click on the cell that contains what you want. Alright, notice the speed miles per hour. But we want to have it in feet, so we have to convert from miles to feet. So I'm going to multiply. I use the asterisk. And then I'm going to click on feet per mile. That's going to change us from miles to feet. But now I have feet per hour. And I have to convert from hours to seconds. Now I don't want to just multiply by 3600 because hours is actually in the denominator. So I'm going to actually divide by this seconds per hour. And I'm going to put OK. And I get a number here, 80.6. So 55 miles an hour is a little over 80 feet per second. To make your spreadsheet more understandable, notice how someone can look up into the formula bar here and see, oh, speed miles per hour times feet divided by seconds per hour. Oh, I got it. That'd be a lot better than, taking, well, this is equal to H6 times Z7 divided by T5. Then someone has to try to cross-reference in your sheet to see where everything is. Now, the other thing is, if you print this out, nobody's going to know what that formula was. The only way they're going to see the formula is if they open up this sheet. So if you're going to print this out for somebody else and you want to show them some documentation, I want to paste this formula over to the side. And the way you paste a formula is you come up here to the formula bar, highlight it, do Control C, and then make sure you put Enter so you get out of there. Click on a nearby cell where you want to show the formula, and I'm going to put an apostrophe, okay, and then I'm going to do Control V, and it pastes it in. Okay. Now this cell previously was bolded, and that's why it's coming out bold here, but I like bold. Now the reason why we put the asterisks up here is because if I don't put the asterisks, it's going to just calculate the value again. Okay, by putting the asterisks, it tells Excel, hey, ignore pretty much everything over here as a calculation. Just assume this is all just a descriptive text. So we'll do that quite often. Now you see this table's got all these values 1 through 100. We're going to talk about using the fill. Now you can be stupid and just type in things all the way down, but what if you had like a list of 100 things? You don't want to do that. Okay? Remember the adage that I saw of the Applied Technology Center. It said, life is tough. It's tougher if you're stupid. And that's why you're in school, so you can make your life easier. Alright, so what you do is you just type in the first two values. Excel, you highlight these first two, you come down in the lower right corner and you get this black cross. The black cross says we're ready to fill. You left click, you drag this down, and look at that, Excel went by hundreds. Because whatever you highlight, Excel looks at what the progression is and uses that pattern to fill the rest. So usually if you have some kind of series you're going down with, just do the first two, drag down the rest, it'll get it. All right. Now let's put the, if we're going 100 feet and we're going 80.66 feet per second, how long is it going to take? Well, physics, distance divided by speed equals time, as long as the units are right. Alright, so to get this formula, I click in there. Remember, you start with an equal sign. We're going to start with the distance. Now that's just B225. You're saying, well, shouldn't I make that distance? Not necessarily. You're going to see why. And then we're going to divide by this, which is our feet per second. But wait a minute, why is it coming up C22? You know something? We better get off of this for now. We never named this. Okay? So we better put that up here. We're going to do it the quick and dirty way. Speed, underline, FT, PER, seconds. And I'll put enter. Okay. So let's come back to this formula. B25 divided by this. There it comes up. Speed, feet per second. And I got it. Now, remember, if you want to paste the formula over here, you click on the cell, highlight the formula bar, Control C off the keyboard, put OK. Remember the apostrophe has to come in, and then I'm going to do Control V. Okay, so there's our formula. Now, what about calculating the rest of these? Do I have to then type in equals this one divided by? No. Anytime you're starting to do something repetitive, there's probably an automated way of doing things. Now, the reason why we want to use this B25 and not have a name cell is because of the B25 is known as a relative address, whereas the speed feet per second is known as an absolute address. Okay. Now, let me show you what happens here when we get the black cross and we bring it down. It's now brought the formula down. But what happens? The first cell, it was B25 divided by the speed. The second one is B26. The third one is B27. So if there's something in a table that you're going to use repetitively in the formula and you want that value to change, you would want to keep it with its just B27, okay? Because then it's going to change to B28. I'm sorry, B28, B29. All right, but we don't want the speed to change, okay? Now, you could say, hey, you know, why don't I just take the answer from up here and just put 80.6? Wouldn't that work? Yeah, that'll work, okay? And nothing's changed. Now, the reason why using a number in a formula is a bad idea, okay, is because of the following. Now, let's say somebody says, you know, how far can I go if I'm going 65 miles an hour? Okay, 65 miles an hour. Notice that this seconds per, or the feet per second speed changed, but none of these changed. Why? Oh, we have it trapped with this stupid 80.6. So I'm going to come up here, click on this, speed feet per second, and then drop this down. And this is the mark of a good spreadsheet. It allows the user to just change one thing, and by changing one thing, you can see the effect on all the other variables. So if you decide to go 100 miles an hour, that's 146 feet per second. You're going to go 100 feet in 0.7 seconds. 300 feet, which is a football field, you're going to get through that in 2 seconds. So let's go back under the speed limit. All right, so we talked about all that, the tabs, renaming cells, and I think I've gone over all this. If you want to print this page out, you can take a look at what it's going to look like by just saying File, Print. Excel automatically puts a print preview screen up there. That's, well, it's something new in 2013 that they did. If you don't like the way things are printing out, let's say that I love students in there. Let's see, let's do File, Print. Let's just see if that came out. It's still up in there. But by doing that, it probably made everything else smaller. So if I didn't want that, I could either delete it, or what you can also do is you can just highlight what you do want, okay, and then do File, Print, and instead of setting Active Sheet, you can just drop this down and just say the selection. When you print the selection, notice the I love students is gone. One other thing you're going to see is I have a footer here. Let's just go back, and that's kind of nice if you're printing things out to have either a footer or a header. Couple ways of doing this. Probably the easiest way is if you go to View, you go to the View menu, go to Page Layout. It will show you kind of like what the whole page looks like, and there's an add header. You just click in here, you can type anything you want. A lot of times what you want to put in here is the file name. It says ampersand file. That's a special code because it's going to pull up whatever the file name is. You change the file name, it'll change it. You hit a space. Let's say you want to put the date in here. Let's say you put a couple other spaces. You want to put Now let's do this at the bottom. So you put those two up there. Notice when I click off it says, oh, this is the name of the file. Here's the date. I can go down to the bottom. Let's say if I want to put page numbers down here, I can get everything off of here that was here. Let me get off of that view. Let's do normal. Here's another way to do it. Insert. Okay, header and footer. I can go to footer. I want to come down here, and now these things are up here. I don't know why they weren't before, but maybe I want to put the page number. Now I'd have to put page blank of, and then I can put number of pages. Click off of here, page 1 of 1. Okay, so you can add headers and footers if you like. They're not going to be viewable in the normal, but they will be viewable if you go and do file print in the print preview. But right now it's on print selection. I don't have a select. Let's just do the whole active sheet. Notice that there's a header and there's a footer, so I'm all good. All right, so once you're done and along the way you should be hitting save as, okay? And I have a path here that I already have my in my homework instructions, my quick start. I'll save it. I'll put, yeah, I'll overwrite it. And there you go. There's your first spreadsheet with some great ideas. If you drop the course even right now, you got some value added. So, but stick with me, and you're going to be an Excel expert by the end of this this course. To make sure that you have the most important points understood from this video, here's 5 questions that your instructor may have you write the answer to and submit with your homework packet. Number 1 is, what is the difference between an Excel workbook and a worksheet? Number 2, list the steps needed to rename a cell in Excel. 3, describe what the scope of a named cell means. 4, list the steps for pasting a formula next to a calculated cell so that when the sheet is printed, the reader can view the formula. And lastly, why is it a poor practice to type in a numerical value into a formula, such as when we showed just typing in the 80.8 feet per second of speed in the time formula? And then associated with that, what is the mark of a well-constructed spreadsheet? And that means in terms of how you've constructed your formulas. All right, so do a good job, get another 100%, and we'll see you on the next video.